We now know more about yesterday's lockdown at Pine Ridge Elementary. We bring you the latest, plus the town of Ferdinand will soon begin searching for another new police chief, and Kurt Guxell brings us sports later on. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin with more on yesterday's threat at Pine Ridge Elementary. The Dubois County Sheriff's Department says they've found no reason to believe that the threat was legitimate. The department said in a statement this morning that they were able to find the phone number used to contact the Pine Ridge offices and found that the number is one that can be bought and used by anyone, including telemarketers and scammers. Additionally, the search of school grounds at Pine Ridge and elsewhere found no evidence that would make yesterday's threat credible, according to sheriff's deputies. In the end, the Sheriff's Department is asking everyone to remain vigilant and not to hesitate in calling law enforcement if you see anything suspicious around schools across Dubois County. Of course, the call was reported at the Pine Ridge Elementary offices at around 10 o'clock yesterday morning, and Southeast Dubois Superintendent Rick Allen says the call was either from a young woman or was some sort of automated call. The school did go on full lockdown for about half an hour yesterday morning while police investigated. A Jasper couple will have to find another place to stay after a fire in the basement of their home. At around 11:40 today, Jasper Fire crews were called to the Allen and Dana Foy residence in the 300 block of South Truman Road after reports of visible smoke. Jasper Fire Chief Kenny Hoaksong says Alan Foy had come home to have lunch when he discovered smoke coming from the basement. Hoaksong says the fire originated from a small room in the basement due to an electrical short. Hoaksong says heat from the fire burst a water line in the room, and the largest part of the fire was out by the time crews arrived. Hoaksong says there was about $20,000 in damage to the home, largely from smoke and water, along with damage in the basement. As mentioned, Hoaksong says the couple will have to stay elsewhere while repairs to the home are made. No injuries were reported. The Jasper Fire Department responded with 5 trucks and 35 men. Crews were on scene for about 45 minutes. Jasper Police, Indiana State Police, and Memorial Hospital EMS also assisted. The town of Ferdinand will soon begin looking for its third police chief since the start of 2013. Last night, current Police Chief Ricky Patton informed the Ferdinand Town Council that he will be leaving the job in mid-October. Patton says his wife Amy has accepted another management position with Master Brand Cabinets at the company's Lexington, North Carolina operations, and thus the couple will be relocating. A native of Virginia, Patton says the move will also put him and his wife closer to their families. Patton says he is proud of several things that were accomplished during his roughly 2 years as Ferdinand Police Chief.
I feel like the department's came a long way since I've been here. I'm proud to say, and I don't take all the credit for that. I attribute that to the officers pulling together and continuing to perform their duties as asked. And to specify the one thing I'm proudest of is starting reserve program and having hit come through the way it has, and the officers patrolling, and also just better training for the officers that we currently have.
Patton says he will likely be concluding his law enforcement career once his tenure as Ferdinand Police Chief is over. He says he plans to spend more time with family as his first grandchild will be born later this year, and he also plans to start his own classic car restoration business. Meanwhile, Ferdinand Town Council President Ken Seacard agrees that Patton's contributions to Ferdinand cannot be overstated.
He took over at a time where, I had replaced a police chief, or with my council's backing, which was a tough thing to do. He came in, he pulled the department together, including the former chief, who has done a very good job, as a police officer, which we knew would happen. He helped pull all of that together and has brought the group together as a very efficient organization. And we're very pleased. We hate to see him leave. At the same time, hey, that's part of life, and we'll just have to adjust and move forward accordingly.
Seacard says the town will advertise for the position starting in July. He says current officers will get as much consideration for the job as any external candidate who applies. Seacard says interviews will take place in August, and a new police chief will likely be named sometime in September. Seacard says Patton will then work with the new chief for a couple of weeks to help with the transition before he departs for North Carolina. In other business, the town council got more positive economic development news from one of its tax abatements. Town attorney Bill Schoenfeld announced that Master Brand Cabinets wound up hiring 255 new employees during its proposed abatement and added nearly $9.4 million in payroll. The original proposal called for Master Brand to hire 135 jobs and invest just over $4 million. Seacard says the added investment is even more good news than what had been expected.
That extra 100 people are in town buying gas, hitting the convenience stores, McDonald's, CVS, could be doing anything. So there's additional money coming into town because of that.
Master Brand originally asked for the tax abatements last year as part of expansion efforts at the company's Ferdinand plant. Jasper police and city officials say the first year of having a school resource officer has been a huge success. The city and Greater Jasper Schools decided to share a part-time SRO last summer after the school corporation began looking into having an officer at the high school on at least a part-time basis. 8-year veteran Jason Knies was appointed as SRO once the program started. Now, the city and school corporation are splitting all costs that are associated with the SRO program. The city is covering 60% of salary and other costs, while the school corporation will fund the other 40% of the salary. Jasper Police Chief Mike Bennett also says the program has been successful thus far. He says there is more to the SRO position than most people may think.
It's not just go out there and hang out at the office. He does a lot of interaction with kids out there. He does a lot of truant follow-ups, a lot of disciplinary things that goes on at the school. He's there to be able to kind of coach the teachers and that sort of thing. So he's been a valuable asset. Superintendent Tracy Lorai has said on numerous occasions how well he's been received out there.
Bennett says Knies' presence at the schools also leaves other officers free for other runs. Bennett is hopeful that the program continues long-term, and he believes it could eventually become a full-time position. Dubois County Democrats are optimistic about their chances in this fall's election. Last night, the party hosted a public meet and greet session at the Knights of Columbus on Jasper's north side. Of course, the key race the Democrats have their focus on will be the race for Jasper mayor. Wayne Sheeter will be challenging Republican incumbent Terry Seitz in the November election. Dubois County Democratic Party Chairman Gary X says Sheeter is the right candidate for the party. He also says the current turmoil in the state Republican Party could help his party locally, though he says it should not be the only factor in anyone's decision-making.
For the sake of the local decision-making process, I hope not. We know the supermajority, the leadership of the governor has really hurt Indiana. We're hearing a lot of grumblings about that particular situation in Indianapolis right now. So I don't think that's going to hurt Democrats this year, but I truly hope people go out, get to know the candidates, and make the decisions that way.
X says the next several months will be spent on the campaign trail promoting the party's field of candidates. Meanwhile, Sheeter is billing himself as a public servant rather than a politician. It's something he says goes back to his high school days when he worked for the Jasper Park Department.
Ever since my sophomore year in high school, I have been in the public servant area. And so my attitude and my thoughts about being mayor come from the idea that you are here to serve the public.
Several other Democratic candidates were on hand for last night's meet and greet as well. These included incumbent Jasper Clerk Treasurer Juanita Boehm and Jasper City Council candidates Adam Offert, Dave Hurst, and Alex Emmons. Offert will face Republican John Bell for the District 3 seat on the Jasper Council. Meanwhile, Hurst is running for the Council's District 4 seat that is being vacated by current Councilman Tom Schmidt at the end of this term. Emmons is running for one of the Council's 2 at-large seats in the fall election. Local and state officials are touting aviation as a key to Indiana's economic future. Earlier this week, Huntingburg Airport Manager Travis McQueen told the Dubois County Airport Authority that message was on full display during last month's Aviation and Aerospace Symposium hosted by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation and the Aviation Association of Indiana. The summit was held April 21st in downtown Indianapolis. Now, Governor Mike Pence, along with former governor and current Purdue University President Mitch Daniels, took part in that summit, along with several other high-ranking economic development officials. Several aviation companies showcased their efforts as well, including AAR Corporation, Alcoa, MSP Aviation, and even Rolls-Royce. McQueen says the conference was a huge success and also an eye-opener.
The thing that really refreshed me is that his recognition of the contribution that aerospace will have in the future economy of Indiana. And we've been after it for, since 2011 we have received the shovel-ready designation for our technology park, and we're a willing partner working with the state of Indiana, the regional economic development folks in Dubois Strong, to partner up and go after aviation aerospace businesses to attract them here to Dubois County.
McQueen feels the Huntingburg Airport has been at the leading edge of aviation in Indiana over the last several years, setting the blueprint for other entities such as at Purdue University.
They just bought out their FBO, so they're doing what the Airport Authority did here 2 years ago. And so we feel that the future is bright for aviation, and it's certainly those high-skilled jobs, advanced manufacturing jobs that are important, and that will keep our kids coming back to Dubois County and make us a great community to live in.
On that note, the conference also featured a special announcement from Purdue. Daniels announced during the symposium that the school is building a 980-acre aerospace park near its main campus in West Lafayette. The new facility will house public and private aerospace research facilities, and it will be housed at the Purdue University Airport, Lafayette Aviation, and the Maurice Zucrow Laboratories. Lafayette Aviation is also going to be renamed to Purdue Aviation. And finally tonight, good news for farmers who may be sweating it out over their crop yields this year. The government says farmers are expected to grow 13.6 billion bushels of corn this year, about 4% less than last year's record crop. The USDA estimate assumes an average per acre yield of nearly 167 bushels an acre, down from the record of 171 a year ago. Soybean farmers are expected to grow nearly 3.85 billion bushels, down 3% from their record last year. The soybean per acre yield is projected at 46 bushels an acre, down about 2 from last year. The USDA says farmers have started this growing season well, as 75% of the corn crop is now planted, ahead of the 5-year average of 57%. Soybean farmers have planted nearly a third of their crop, ahead of the 20% average. All right, coming up after the break, Kurt has sports, and later on, more eating tips from Purdue Extension educator Jan Dugan. We're back after this.